to the front pages as usual. The Independent on Sunday has that story. Theresa May, the Home Secretary, was warned of Olympic security fiasco 10 months ago, it says. The Sunday Times has an interesting story. They've got a leaked document from the top of the NHS warning that thousands of doctors and nurses face the sack unless they accept pretty dramatic changes to their pay and conditions. Big NHS crisis coming there, says the Sunday Times. Very different story, front of the Sunday Telegraph. They have named who they say is the, inverted commas around it, you notice, the killer of WPC Fletcher, still at large in Libya. We've got the Mail on Sunday here saying that a Sudanese refugee who raped a 12-year-old girl has been allowed to stay in the UK because returning him would breach his human rights. So, lots to talk about, lots of other stories to talk about. Anne Treneman, Nigel Farage, thank you both very much for joining us. Where are we starting today?
Well, we're starting with G4S because we are suddenly all completely, riveted by this. And the boss of G4S, who has a marvellous name of Nick Buckles, has given an interview to the Sunday Telegraph.
Nick Buckles.
He's Buckles. And well, he's buckled in the sense that they say my Olympics nightmare. And this basically, he's not going to be taking his bonus. So he has to survive with his £823,000 pound salary. It must be really hard for him. But the other thing in this article is they say that the G4S has only managed to supply 4,000 of the 10,000 security personnel. So 3,500 troops. I don't know, the numbers still don't seem to be adding up. I don't feel like we've got anywhere near what's actually going on.
But even better than that, of the 4,000 they've recruited, when he was asked on the radio yesterday, did all of the people they'd employed speak English? He replied, that's a difficult question to answer.
Which is interesting.
So this is even great. We have no one at all, but...
One of the big political stories in the old days was that the public sector was completely useless and the private sector was fantastic.
Exactly.
And you could always turn... after Barclays, after G4S and all the rest of it, this no longer looks true. It seems to be that there is something in this country that we're not very good at running big organisations, be they public or private.
Or big events.
Well, we'll see.
Yes. Don't go there.
Let's carry on.
Or governments.
Well, quite.
Or governments.
Quite.
And that's the story you've chosen there about the security staff may not speak English.
Yeah, I just find that astonishing. And one asks oneself, surely at some point in time, the government, and I guess you'll be asking this later, didn't the government know what a mess G4S were in? And that really is a big question, I think.
I know, you certainly don't think it happened on Wednesday, when Theresa May said, the gap crystallised on Wednesday.
Right. Well, we'll talk to Jeremy Hunt about that later on. Let's talk about some politics. There's a lot of political stories in the papers today about...
Things are going swimmingly.
Not in the coalition.
Well, no, David Cameron says they are.
Cameron says they are. Cameron, I think things are in crisis when the Prime Minister tells you how great things are going.
He's written a piece for the Sunday Times.
Yes, he has, and he says things are OK. The Lib Dems and us have disagreements, but we're all on the same side and we're making great progress. The House of Lords, no one cares about the House of Lords, but the real issue here for the coalition is that if House of Lords reform really is scuppered, then are we going to get the boundary changes, which is what the Conservatives desperately want? So that's a real issue.
But these are two issues that people in general do not care at all about.
I agree with that.
And it's amazing that, when the economy is tanking, the Olympics are sort of wobbling forward.
Yeah.
This is supposed to be the summer of fun, and Westminster is at each other's throat over two issues that people in the country don't care that much about.
I agree with that, but there is a bigger disagreement than the disagreement between the Lib Dems and the Tories, and that is the Conservative Party itself is split. Out there in the Shire.
What a surprise.
Yeah, just think about this. Since Cameron became the party leader, they've lost 50% of their members.
And of course, their great worry is that your lot, that UKIP picks up support, ultimately picks up seats. Do you think next election you're going to see UKIP members in the House of Commons?
I think if we are able to win the Euro elections of 2014, then the momentum that gives us would give us every chance to win seats in Westminster.
And this is a cultural split in the Conservative family as much as anything else?
It's an historic split. We've seen it before over corn laws and tariff reform, and now it's there over Europe. And honestly, people are saying, look, this guy leads our party, but how is he Conservative? Whether it's on Europe, immigration, human rights.
He's Liberal Conservative.
Yeah, well, that isn't going down very well in the Shires.
Anne?
Well, Andrew Marr Sunday is painted the worst case scenario, and it's sort of riveting. So basically, House of Lords reform goes absolutely nowhere. Boundaries Commission
changes, which would give the Conservative people think about 15 to 20 extra seats in the election, is the theory, if they get these changes through, which is why they matter.
If by then anyone's going to vote for them at all. And so everything goes wrong, and apparently the Lib Dems will not vote for the boundary changes if Lords reform doesn't. I mean, just all horse trading. And then it says here, so it is possible that the coalition will collapse in poisonous acrimony and Ed Miliband will be Prime Minister by Christmas.
Goodness. He doesn't then go on to say this is not terribly likely, but it is now possible.
I think you get some quite good odds on that.
Yeah.
But just to be helpful, Liam Fox has written a piece in the Sun newspaper.
Oh yes, Liam Fox is everywhere today.
Saying, let us loose. We've got to renegotiate a new deal with the EU, and we've got to do it right now. And this, again, is just putting yet more pressure on the Prime Minister and exposing that split that we were just discussing.
Yes. We should also talk, I guess, on a similar sort of theme about the immigration story in the Mail on Sunday. This is the kind of thing that is causing alarm not just in the country, but in the Conservative Party too, I think. Well,
don't forget that David Cameron did say he was looking to have a British Bill of Rights and that he would try and deal with this sort of issue. Now,
this is the inability of British courts to send back refugees who have done terrible crimes in this country.
Well, in this case, it's a refugee. Very often, it's not. It's often it's illegal immigrants that have come here. So there are lots of different categories of this. But in the end, it's the sheer impotence of the British courts, the British Parliament, and the British government. And again, within the Conservative Party, the vast majority of Tory Party members and voters would say, we need a completely new deal with the ECHR. But once again, it's our old friend Europe that comes back and dominates issue after issue.
Well, we've talked a bit about some of the more extreme possibilities already. Labour in power by Christmas, you mentioned. And you've got another example.
You know things are going as swimmingly as David Cameron says when they reprint this picture. Whenever you see this picture, you know that the knives are out. And this has got the great picture of George Osborne. Looking, we think
just as he is today.
Although you think his sneer has gotten a bit better because he's perfected the sneer, but
it's not really. Well,
it's I don't know what he's. Yeah, I don't think that might be a sneer in training. That is, but it's basically saying that Haig is now tipped for his job, and in the Treasury they're sort of wargaming for Osborne's departure and everything. So, things are in crisis. It's. Roll on summer.
OK, roll on summer.
Yeah.
Can we move away from politics now? Or no?
Yeah. We can.
Let's move away to...
I can tell you one thing that there'll be plenty of guards at, and that will be the beach volleyball, which is in Whitehall.
Now, this is a very... What the Sunday Times regards as a very worrying story here.
Oh, yeah, because it's a little bit cold, just a little bit, some of these girls might have to actually put on clothing. And apparently this means that everyone is going to turn their tickets in.
And that means the crowds won't come.
This is this hilarious thing. It says, the Prime Minister is not alone in believing that watching women in bikinis is a vital part of the Olympic experience.
OK. And we also have a story about the closing. One of the papers, is it the Mail on Sunday?
It is, yeah.
Has got a sort of what they say is a leak about what's going to be in the closing
and you thought
ceremony.
Things couldn't get worse. It is, Russell Brand is singing. He's singing a Sex Pistols song. And also there'll be stripping lollipop ladies, apparently.
It must be April the 1st.
There are going to be 270,000 children or something recreating the River Thames.
Right. Plus a lot of very
I'm just giving you the edited highlights.
Fairly predictable songs.
It sounds truly awful, doesn't it?
Yeah,
I'm sure it will be wonderful
pretty worrying.
When it happens. You have a good news story.
A good news story. It is St Swithin's Day. The forecast is it'll rain again. It's going to rain forever. And whilst it's been a rotten year for many, many things, wildflowers, and I noticed at home, I've never seen poppy fields like it, but the big story here in The Observer is that it's one of the best years ever for the bee orchid. So that's got to be good news.
It's very good news for bee orchids.
Very good news for bee orchids, but there is a.
I think we're clutching at straws or at bee orchids.
But there is a lovely twist here about the grapevines in Kent and Sussex, saying it's been disastrous for the grapes, and the growers have been forced to use special blow dryers.
So there's
I don't know how it works, but
there are army out there sort of giving everyone sort of new hairdos or
That's
something.
That's a very strange thought. All right. Thank you both very much indeed for that.